Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today we have Scott Henderson on the show. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, man. Pleasure to be here.
Scott is the head dot connector and the co-founder of Doing Good Works, which is a company we've had on the show before. And I'm excited to talk to Scott really about the business model behind Doing Good Works and how it really is marrying societal change, benefits for improving our world, whilst also building a successful business. But before we dig more into that, Scott, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, man. I really started a very traditional career after college graduation and got into the corporate world and spent probably 20 or so years in that arena. Had the opportunity to work in different locations around the United States and then ended up back here in Southern California and ran a couple of different privately held companies and then bought and sold a few of my own. And all of those were really fantastic and great experiences. And ultimately, as I look back on what we're doing today at Doing Good Works, was just a fantastic training ground to be exactly where we are today. It was really, really instrumental in all of the things that we've found to be successful in marrying what is our business model today. As you mentioned, I mean, we're in the benefit corporation space, which is kind of unique and new. So
it sounds like you have this background. You kind of evolved into the space, and tell me more about how you guys have cracked this. I guess it's been described to me the 10, 20, 30 model, and maybe the broader model as it goes forward.
Yeah, sure. Again, getting to where we are today to have this conversation has not been without a lot of trial and error. We have probably perfected the art of the pivot, as I'm sure you heard from Jordan, my co-founder, but along the way in that journey, all have been really truly building blocks to what we have here. And as I mentioned, we established ourselves in California as a benefit corporation, which just allows us to focus on one of two things: either a social initiative and or an environmental initiative. And so as we think about shareholders and stakeholders and directors and operators, it really allows us some flexibility in how we think about repurposing our profits. And there's some pretty broad guidelines, which can be good or bad, but ultimately it's what led us to incorporating a 10, 20, 30 model. And very, very quickly, the 10% is really our corporate mandate to make sure that we are always investing 10% of our corporate profits, pre-tax, back into mission-related activities. And so as your listeners may know, our entire purpose of Doing Good Works was to help change outcomes for kids and youth that were involved in the foster care system. Anybody in the foster care system, and again, we can talk about this later, but the results have typically been pretty horrific for a long period of time. So that was, the impetus to starting the business was, can we start a for-profit entity that has in its goals and in its DNA social change. So that's kind of, again, the background. So that's the 10%. And again, it's kind of nice because it allows us a tremendous amount of flexibility to identify what are sometimes best practices, other groups, other nonprofits, other organizations that are doing some unique things to change outcomes. And it allows us to come alongside from a financial standpoint and both support them and learn from them, which has been great. So that's our 10%. The 20% side is really about creating space for our employees both for volunteering, but also for mentoring. And a big part of what we've learned over the last really 2 years is the value of mentoring and the relationship aspect of working with kids from the system, right? Allows, and in order to run a business and talk to customers and satisfy customers to the nth degree, which is the business imperative, we had to do things like create space. And so sometimes I explain it as we're over capacity, which from a business perspective sometimes is a little tough because we always know we're always cutting costs and thinking about bottom line first. We've got capacity built in, and so when a life event happens or a court hearing happens for one of the kids, we stop what we're doing and make them the number one priority, and that's been.
So are you saying it's 20% of the time is given of your time is given towards mentoring? Is that what we're saying?
100%.
I'm just trying to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's really across the company, right? We of our 15 or so employees in our headcount today, that's something that we hold. So whether it's volunteering or spending time mentoring, we want to create that space for our employees. And then the 30% is our commitment to the foster community, and we will always hire. We will have a staff equivalent of 30% from foster care. We have found that being shoulder to shoulder and eyeball to eyeball, in the work trenches, allows us to really understand what the needs are, what's been missing, and truthfully keeps us very grounded in the mission, which has been fantastic.
So let me just kind of recap that, because I really love this model, and I think I really want to help, because I think that you guys are gurus and mentors now on others that might want to embrace the 10-20-30 model. So 10% is essentially giving back to the community. Is that right? It's 20% is really kind of giving up, dedicating 20% of time to mentoring, and really related to the cause that you have, but it could be for anything, I suppose. And then 30% is a hiring goal, right? So 30% is related to the number of employees in your company that are focused around the area, in your particular case, foster care.
Yep.
So individuals coming out of foster care. That's really a great model. And I can see so much value here as we tackle so many different societal challenges today of how to apply this. But tell me more about how you kind of evolved or kind of had that eureka moment that led to the implementation of a 10-20-30 model.
Yeah. Well, initially the thought that we had was we would start this for-profit entity, and like most social enterprises, we would hire exclusively from the population, right? Our goal was to create as many jobs as we possibly could. And in that model, honestly, we failed. It just didn't work. We weren't being successful in the marketplace. We weren't being successful in our mission efforts. Because we discovered very, very quickly that we were being pulled in too many directions. It didn't allow us to do either of the goals very well. So as Jordan and I sat back and kind of, again, learned from those experiences, started to structure, what would it look like? What are the key elements of success, right? Not only from the business perspective, but most importantly from what works in the mission, right? And the one thing that is pretty common knowledge is that the involvement of a caring adult in a young person's life, give it the foster system or really truly any population, is the number one indicator of a successful outcome. So knowing that, right, how do you structure a business where mentoring and relationship to a population is the overarching goal, right? And so that kind of helped us build into what's important. It goes that was where we started really at the 20%. And and a lot of our a lot of our employees are volunteers for an organization called CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and that is a national volunteer organization for the kids in foster care. And the court systems and judges and attorneys don't care that there's a work day. They call court at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, and we wanted to make sure that that was always going to be a priority. So as you talked to Jordan last week, there's been meetings that have been scheduled, and he goes and does that because that's the number one priority. And I'll step in, or we've just have a very supportive. It's helped us be very supportive, and from a culture standpoint, it's created an incredible company culture.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine, and certainly one that others really I think aspire to mimic or learn from, for sure. So today we're in a world where I think it's the fastest growing set of stocks right now are ESG related stocks, these environment, sustainability, and governance related stocks. And certainly I think this idea of social responsibility, social good is part of the ways that progressive business leaders are thinking. How do you find businesses are thinking about this today? Are they pushing it far enough? What would you like other businesses to be thinking about in this space?
Yeah, great question. I think there is a growing movement, which is exciting to see. There's an organization, B Labs is one of those that is trying to help identify organizations globally that are thinking differently, that are not only just thinking but acting differently, which is exciting. But again, there's 3,500 or so of those in our global business world. We did see the Business Roundtable group come out maybe a couple of years ago and very clearly state that as the S&P 500 companies were going to start taking more and more responsibility to act differently. The challenge that happens there is they're still beholden to shareholders, and shareholders require a return. And so sometimes there's a competing priority when it comes to reinvestment or thinking how they might address social issues. That's a traditional model, but I would tell you that what happens, and certainly what we've seen, as I mentioned, the culture in our business, right? One of the things that is a great business imperative is driving great cultures for great business outcomes. It works, and so I don't think those two are mutually exclusive. I do believe that there are ways that we can invest in our organizations, invest in our folks and our employees, invest in benefit packages that are pretty aggressive and positive, and see the bottom line have a very positive result from that. And we've been blessed.
And I think also just outside of the 30% of individuals that are certainly benefiting by stepping out of the foster system and into an opportunity like this, the others that are part of that goal, part of this kind of social change, that desire to be part of a role that has purpose is such a powerful element. I do think on the culture side, it's critical these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of taking, and folks have corporate social responsibility programs, and there's some titles and some efforts that I think that are in of themselves very positive, but are they reaching far enough? And I would say that today, I think employees, and I think, as we look around from what happened to us in last year, right? The pandemic that shut down globally our opportunity to be in relationship, to think differently, to have those connection points. And as we look back, I mean, that now common trauma that we've all experienced, I think has the opportunity to bring us closer. and to do things that start to drive empathy, regardless of the population, right? A shared understanding about, hey, let's be shoulder to shoulder, and I think that's a much better pathway. As we move forward. So it's like I said, I'm excited. I think that, like I said, the silver lining for the pandemic really can be an opportunity to bring us closer together, and think about how we restructure or how we move forward in both our work environments as well as our social impact arena.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very powerful model. So, I mean, I've been asking this to everybody that has been on the Uncaged show, and it may seem a little hokey, but it resonates with me because I'd say the last year has been so tough on so many people from a personal perspective as well as a business perspective.
Yeah.
And so I ask people really where are they finding joy in their lives these days? You know, what's giving you a sense of kind of happiness and with what you're working on and everything else?
Yeah. Honestly, the joy that we garner in watching kids, right? The young people that we're working with, having an opportunity to live out hope. And I give you an example. We have 14 interns that we're working with remotely, and there's a young man who I had the pleasure to be partnered up with, and I'm getting a chance to mentor him. And 28-year-old young man from the inner city LA, from the hood, as he's referred to it, and spent time in jail. He has turned his path around and is so blessed and thankful for where he is, and having some new vision, right? So a new lens to see life through. And he's a lit major, and I challenged him to write a poem called "Bigger Than Life." It was a phrase that he kept using, and last Tuesday, he was able to be on the Zoom. We asked him to be on the Zoom call and read it to the group. Right? It's those small little just treasured experiences that bring so much joy. And as I said to the group, I mean, that event has nothing to do with the business that we're in, and has everything to do with the business that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it does connect back to the social meaning of why you're approaching this. And I think the beauty of this is it's when people have worked on kind of exercises to do good for society. Traditionally, there's just been this unfortunate split between what is good to grow a business and what is good to save society or improve society, and the ability to marry those things together. It's that double win that I think all of us need to be seeking, which is really, really great. So as you guys go forward and you think about how the model is going to evolve for the future, what are your hopes to how is this going to, do you see this scaling? Is this something that you see kind of extending outside of your present operations? Tell me more about the plans.
Well, we were on a fairly aggressive geography growth plan pre-pandemic. So we're excited about what's happening, and vaccines, and let's maintain some opportunity to really get our country back to normal. We see the intern program, what we're doing in reaching relationships, and some of the model extends into local communities. So we're looking forward to, as a matter of fact, Jordan's actually in Texas as we speak, looking at, there's a big need for improvement in the foster care system, really nationally, but Texas is a bit of a mess. We think about Seattle, Chicago is a big area for us. So not only from a business perspective, but really having these kinds of dialogues with other business leaders about how to think about purpose, or how it becomes transformational within their operation. I don't think they're too far off. I mean, I really do think that like I said, explaining how to do it, it does require a little bit different thinking,
Right.
but it's not impossible. It really, and again, as I said, I mean, the rewards from a business standpoint have been there. The rewards personally, when it comes to, just like I said, the interactions with kids, nothing better than seeing and helping change an outcome, right? Whether we do that with our products and our services, or whether we do that with our time, and it doesn't take a bunch of special words. We're not super smart.
Yeah.
As you introduced me as the head dot connector, I'm only head dot connector because I'm not smart enough to come up with things on my own. So I have to bring smart people together. But yeah, it really is. It's a lot of fun. And it is, after a very successful, corporate career, and the traditional model has always been, hey, let's be successful and donate to nonprofits or spend time, giving back. We have seen over the last 20, 30 years that those are important, but they don't really change the fundamental outcomes, right? If we really want to go do something where we're lifting everyone up, where we are starting to think about everyone being equal, we've got to do a better job, and we have to model it, and we have to live it.
I think that is a good goal, and certainly what you guys have done at Doing Good Works is a start, and scaling it across the country would be an incredible blessing. I can only see so much potential here of what you could be doing with this. Scott, it's been great having you on Uncaged today. Uncaged is a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we've been talking to Scott Henderson, who is the head dot connector and co-founder of Doing Good Works, which is a certified benefit corporation that is utilizing proven market models to create positive, scalable change for youth impacted by the foster care system. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Scott.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time with me.
Talk soon.